really just thinking about kind of that third space we talked about engaging with here, which is that, those things where we don't find hope.
Mm.
And I was just, that image that you were speaking of, Shabbat starts when the darkness comes and you light the candle to bring the light in. And then saying about how it's about kind of looking at those structures and systems of our life, which actually we need to be freed from for that recreation. So I was wondering if that kind of space of where, maybe, that sense of kind of where kind of the slavery is, or that lack of hope. If you'd like to say something about that, I was really, yeah.
So just to clarify, in case anybody wonders, so the way how we know when Shabbat is technically, just legality, is 3 stars in the sky. That's how you know, right? That's when we're ready, and then people will like. But obviously, with technology, that's not really an issue. We know when the sun down. But so I come from a very progressive tradition, obviously, which means that the way we decide on what we can and can't do is very different from a traditional Jew, for example. Just so people understand the difference, and we make the choices ourselves. But for me, the bit of freedom, for example, is quite practical. It's not because I think that Jewish law tells me I'm not allowed to use electricity, which is what a tradition to do. That is very important. For me, that's not really the issue. But it is the fact of switching off my phone, like switching off everything on the computer. So deliberately, actually, not most of the time I just flip the computer lid down and then it's there immediately when I open. But the act of switching everything off and saying no, for the next 24, 25 hours, I'm not doing computers, I'm not doing work, unless of course I'm leading a service and then I need my laptop.
Yeah.
But the point, the emails are not open, the work documents are not open, my phone is not on. I deliberately switch it off and stick it in a drawer somewhere, so that I am free from that constancy of work. Because I don't know how about you, but the phone, right? Always there. It's like the first thing you touch in the morning for most of us, right? And it's the last thing you touch at night. It's kind of become like a third, a sixth finger or something. It's always there. And I'm not saying technology isn't amazing, because I honestly think lockdown would have been a much, much worse experience had it not been for technology. But it also invades, and it bleeds into everything we do. And it's important to stop sometimes. It's important to say, okay, the phone goes away. I do not need to know what is going on in the news at all times of the day. For 24 hours, the world's going to survive without me knowing what's going on in the news. It doesn't mean I can't use my phone to call my dad, for example, or my sister. Or, it's about what do we use it for. So freeing ourselves from the constancy of social media, of the news, is really important. I think it helps us spiritually. I also think just emotionally for our general well-being. To just give ourselves some time to do other things, to read a book. I've started lockdown. I'm buying books again. Everything was on my phone. I was just reading as a document or a Kobo or Kindle or whatever. And now I actually have real books. It's amazing. It's like you touch them and you're reading them, and nobody interferes while you're reading them. You don't get a message in the book saying somebody has texted you. It doesn't call you while you're reading it. And it's those little things in our lives that makes a huge difference. Whereas, it's everyone's talking about this. This is not a religious thing, but we have to be careful with how much media we consume, how many news, and how much we're online. So going offline, unplugging, as we call it, unplug Shabbat is just amazing.
And I think it's one of the things you were saying there. One thing that I found really difficult, particularly at the beginning of kind of lockdown and stuff, is that all of a sudden you're even more dependent, like actually dependent upon it. Before, I found so many different ways to justify the need to have my phone on, or to be checking social media, or the news feed or whatever. And it's like, it's important that I'm here for people. But actually, all of a sudden, we moved into a space where, as you say, with the technology, that became an essential lifeline. in kind of our life and community. And so it was even easier to say, actually, you know, all those justifications that I might have previously been able to say, yeah, that was just a bit far-fetched, that was just me kind of taking the mick or whatever. All of a sudden it's like, oh, but now I see where it is really important. And and actually recognizing too, as you say, that actually the world can still carry on, and whether I know what's going on in this 24 hours or not. You know, there are other ways to get in touch with family and friends, you know, in those important moments. It doesn't require me to have, you know, my phone with me, or doesn't require, you know, that, you know, my computer on. I think it's interesting you said that. I've started only in the last kind of month, is kind of my day off. It tends to be Saturday, and so Friday night, before I go to bed, I make sure my computer's actually turned off, as compared to just kind of, yeah, exactly. I'm keeping it real. I'm trying to keep it real. And actually as you said, there's something very different about, like, the amount of times where I'm like, oh, you know, I forgot to check that email or things, and I know the computer's on, so I don't have to wait for it to load up and log in. I can just hit a key and go, knowing that that's actually not there, and I have to take those extra intentional steps, has actually been something that's really kind of shifted the way I kind of engage with it, on kind of that downtime, that, you know, that rest period, that unplugged offline, whatever it might look like. I think yeah.
How are you able to feel the hope or the opening in yourself if we keep ourselves so busy at all times that there's no space? You know, and as you know, people might think that we do less during lockdown. Oh my God, we work even harder than before. You know, it is constant. And so if we don't give ourselves this time for not doing and just being, how are we meant to feel those openings in ourselves? And, you know, I don't know about you, but that's why I like cooking, right? Because you're doing something, you're just allowing you're allowing yourself a bit of space. Nothing else is going on, or just listen to something nice on the radio, or some music, or when you go for the walk, or when you just not do. You know, how can you feel hope if there's no space?
Yeah. I think that's a good place to end the conversation. It's a great question to end on. So yeah, where do you feel hope if there's no space?
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you, Tim.
No, it's been a great joy, and yeah, hopefully some other people will get something out of it, and if not, I've had a great morning. So excellent. Well, we'll sign off on the video here, and so thank you for joining us, and have a blessed interfaith week, amongst other things.
Indeed, amen.